Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do,
Just what to do, just what to do.
if what you're feeling is really true,
Is it really true? Is it really true?
just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
To the Geri Petito Show. Everyone and anyone who knows me knows I am the author of I'm Not an Addict, I'm Just an Ass. I'd rather be a smartass than a dumbass. Because, guys, 34 years ago, I was a dumbass. But today, 34 years later, through the grace of God, I can honestly say now I'm a smartass. And the word ass is in the Bible at least 40 times, and it means donkey. And that's what I was. I'm saying all that to say this. There's a lot of people out there struggling, even with health, right? Addiction, recovery, the families. I'm a nutritional health coach. I'm also a recovery coach. All my services to you are free. Please, please reach out. I want you to know someone is listening. If you think my book can help someone, because I sure do, you can go right to Simon & Schuster's bookstore, Archway Publishing, BAM, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And you can go to my website now, www.geripetito.com. My book is on audio. And my voice, guys, Simon & Schuster wanted to put my book to audio with someone else's voice. I was like, no way. This is my story, my passion. So my producer here, Ruben Rodriguez of Hamilton Radio and Iron Horse Films, is now doing audio books with your voice. So if we have any authors out there interested, please reach out. We have to start looking at addiction differently, guys. You are not powerless, not over anything, especially with God. All right? Keep that in mind. You are not born with a disease. You have a dis-ease of the brain cells while using that can be completely reversed in 1 year. Trust me. Okay? And I'm here to help you. So one more last thing about this. If you truly, truly, truly cannot afford my book, please reach out to me about that as well. I'm here to help you. So now, guys, I want to introduce my really cool guests, okay? So their band name, group name, is Chiseled. Okay, so the members are Stef, Tom, Kai, and Brian. But I'm going to go to Stef because I want you to properly introduce everyone and tell everyone a little bit about each of you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you having us on the show. This is a lot of fun. Well, I'm Stef. I don't know, I live in San Jose, California. I've liked to listen to and play music since I was, a preteen. So that's me. Tom and I started, well, we played together, or we would play occasionally at open mics for years before the pandemic started. And then when the pandemic hit and everyone was lonely at home, we started sending each other recordings of our work back and forth and started collaborating on, covers at first, and then started writing music. And our first album was an entirely pandemic affair where, we each sent each other parts, and Tom wound up producing the whole thing. So that's the...
Tom, wait. Tom, raise your hand. Let everybody know who Tom is. Okay, there you go. Continue.
And then, that was us playing all instruments and doing things together, just two of us. But then when we started playing live more, because, after the pandemic opened things up a little bit, then we invited Kai to join. At first on bass, but more and more, Kai started playing electric lead guitar, which is what he does a lot of nowadays. As well, we switch the bass around, all three of us, all the time, actually. And as Brian points out, he's the only one who's steadfast in his and his instrument, the drums. So Brian's our drummer, and we brought him on a year and a half ago or something. So now we're a full band. We have 3 albums previously, and we're about to release the next one called Sounds Like, really in the next week or so. Actually, it's ready for release.
So Kai, raise your hand. 1 second. Kai, raise your hand. Okay, now Brian, raise your hand. The drummer. All right. Continue, Steph.
Well, that's sort of an introduction to us. I mean,
Okay.
I think for more specific personal things, I think each of them will be able to talk a bit better.
Okay, so let's go to Tom. Let's hear what you have to say.
Oh, just a quick background.
Yep.
So I started music pretty early. Piano lessons, age 5. Learned saxophone starting 4th grade in school, and I was a latecomer to the guitar. Probably started that in college, but I started writing songs pretty early. Songs on the piano. I think I was in high school when I was doing that. And let's see. Yeah, I think I've played in groups, performing groups since high school. So that's it's been a few years now.
A few years?
Yeah, a few years now since then. But I love doing it, and it keeps me connected. And so I count myself lucky to be part of this group. And I also make my living giving lessons on the piano and guitar, and the ukulele as well.
Oh, and the ukulele. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. For kids especially, it's sort of a less intimidating option than having a 6-string guitar, and it makes for classes. If kids aren't quite sure if this is what they want to do, so a little kind of a less pressure way to get into making music.
That's pretty cool. All right, Kai, let's hear from you now.
Yeah. Well, for context, I am Stef's son. So I was, raised around that, the music, I guess. I didn't actually start music until about 3 years or so ago. But both of my parents are, very into music and have good musical feel. So I always had that around me. So it took me a while to discover that music made sense for me, even though it was, staring me in the eyes through the form of my parents. But once I did start, I just picked up the guitar, started playing songs that I liked, and then at some point it got to the point where, Tom and Steph invited me to the band. So yeah, it's really I have much less of a story to tell because it hasn't been told yet, but I hope that is to come. So
it'll be an amazing story. An amazing story.
Thank you.
Ruben, I feel like I have a little bit of something weird on my mic. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so now that's better. Brian, the drummer.
Yeah.
Let's hear from you.
Hey everybody, I'm Brian, and I'm a drummer. I've been playing since I was pretty young. Growing up in the elementary and middle school through high school, school bands and garage bands and whatnot. So I've been playing for quite a long time, and how I got connected with a couple of the guys in Chiseled many years ago. I was in a previous band that one of the other band members was a co-host of an open mic in Mountain View. So I started kind of hanging out in that scene, and it had a lot of local musicians that, met up multiple times a week at different open mics. And so you get to know people. And so through that circuit is actually how I initially met Tom many years back. And he was playing in another group, and we started kind of every once in a while playing together and just jamming. So I got to know Tom many years ago, and then a few years later, also through kind of the open mic circuit, I then met Stef through the open mic stuff. And so we've kind of known each other for, a number of years and different projects and just hanging out. And so then when they let me know of this current project that they put together just these last couple of years. They invited me to kind of join in and see if I wanted to be a part of it. So that's kind of how I got connected with this current Chiseled lineup.
So, okay, so I want to say something about drummers. I actually was married to a drummer. I love drums. I don't play any musical instruments. I don't sing. No. But every time I go to shows, and they want me to do lives and this and that, but the drummer's always in the back, and the singers are right in front of him. So I make them move. I'm like, we want to see the drummer because we love watching the drummer drum. You know what I mean? So why do they do that? If there's 2 or 3 singers, they're right in front of the drummer. Why?
I think maybe oftentimes, especially in some of the smaller venues, literally the stage is only so many square feet big. And so you might have a small stage. And yes, there's been a handful of open mics that have a great open mic scene, but their stage is really tiny and actually wasn't maybe designed for like a full,
All right,
5-person band.
No, the shows I go to have huge stages. Okay,
Yeah.
huge. No, I don't like. I make them move.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that because in a previous band I was in, I would joke about, oh, I'm playing this gig and all I see while I'm playing is the other band members'
Right.
backsides, and I don't get to see the people out in the audience hardly at all. So
Well, I think
yes,
it's because drums are in the middle.
I know.
Someone else wants to be in the middle also, so they stand in front of the drum.
Yeah.
Right, but they could still move a little to the left and a little to the right, and they're still in the
Agreed.
middle.
Now to be fair with that, yeah, true. Historically, in bands and even back in the big band era, many decades ago, that was the case. And you had horn players,
Oh.
behind the saxes, and the rhythm section would either be behind in the way back or off to one of the sides. So if you look at old videos and photos of Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich, big band era drummers, you'll see that the drums are actually on the side of the stage.
Oh. Okay.
And part of that had to do with some of those bands. The drummer actually was the leader, like Buddy Rich, like he was the leader of the band. So every once in a while, the drummer does get lucky with
There you go.
a side stage thing.
There you go. So I'm going to ask each of you this question. So I'll actually ask Kai first because he has a younger mind, so you guys could think about your answers, okay? All right. So Kai, you're young, you're very young, but growing up with music, who were some of your musical influences? Because you've got to remember.
Some of my influences, I'm going to cite the most, Well, growing up, I mean, it was more subconscious, really. I was exposed to a lot of music. I just didn't really perceive it. But the first music I really perceived and still keep with me as like influences are the band Wilco.
Okay.
The Beatles, which is like
Of course.
everyone's influenced by the
on.
Beatles.
Right.
Come on,
Come on.
And then in terms of guitar, I would say more like Derek Trucks, the guitarist, and then I had this Pink Floyd phase.
Oh
so
my gosh! I went to Pink Floyd concerts. Oh yes.
Whoa, yeah. I wish I could have gone to real Pink Floyd
Right.
concerts, but David Gilmour is one of my biggest influences, whether I like it or not. So
That's so cool.
those would be my lineup.
Okay, so I have a question for you. I'm not into like astrology. I'm really not. I'm only into one sign. But what sign are you?
I'm a Capricorn, I think.
Okay, I'm a Pisces, and you sound a little bit like I did when I was younger, and I'm like, I wonder if he's a Pisces. Pisces are very artistic, I'm an artist, I'm a poet, and the way you're talking, I kind of sounded like that when I was in my 20s. So, cool.
Cool.
Now, do you have that one song, I don't care who it's from, but do you have that one song that resonates with you that you're like, this is really one of my favorite songs?
Oh wow, that's a tough
one,
question.
I know.
But I would say a song that I'll never skip is "Impossible Germany" by Wilco.
Well, there you go.
So-
You've got your song. Beautiful. Do you ever write? Are you a songwriter? Do you ever dabble in it?
Not really, but
Okay.
again, that might just be a not
That's right.
yet. So,
I can see that
you know,
happening.
I'll see. Yeah, I'll see in the future.
Okay. All right, so Dad, let's go to Steph.
You mean influences and so on? Gosh, at my age, it's been so many. But I guess growing up, my dad was from Texas, and I grew up partly in Texas, and so, and he was into country, and so growing up, I got some grief about this from other friends, but just a lot of country music. Hank Williams, he had a whole bunch of
Okay.
Hank Williams albums. Willie Nelson, I think probably some of the earliest songs that I learned on guitar were Willie Nelson, and other musicians of that type. But over the years, obviously many other influences. Maybe in college and thereafter, probably the biggest influences on me have been Bob Dylan, and Neil
Okay.
Young in terms of guitar work, for example.
Okay.
But then, more recently, Gillian Welch, I think of as an absolutely probably the most amazing songwriter there is, contemporary, and then a thousand others. So
Okay.
those are a list of influences.
Do you have a song?
Oh gosh, a song. I mean, I've also listened to a great deal of loud loud music. So television from the late '70s and '80s, or Talking Heads and so on. So if I had to pick a song that will always be part of my memory, not the best or anything, but just an absolutely epic song, would be Marquee Moon by Television.
Okay. So there you go. So now let's go to Brian, the drummer.
Well, let's see. I've had a variety of influences and styles as well since I grew up, 3 years, an '80s kid. So I grew up with the '80s pop stuff and kind of the tail end of Led Zeppelin stuff, which yeah, obviously drums is my primary. Names like John Bonham and I think in middle and most drummers, like like Rush drummers, you just kind of it's very inspired of the unique characteristics of playing and other similar like prog rock, like harder rock bands. And so my biggest influences are like Rush, Van Halen, but also a lot of a number of the big hair bands of the '80s, which I know people kind of we kind of make fun of the clothing and stuff nowadays, but at the time growing up, it was very kind of influential. And then my dad is actually a saxophone player, and he played in a jazz big band, so I have some of that
Oh.
more jazz and improv side of me as well, which helps out, playing
Yeah.
live and also playing with other people. It's easy to kind of sit down and let's jam and just improv and have fun. So
So
two strongest things.
do you have a song?
Yeah, it is kind of tricky to nail down one, but I know I always enjoyed. For the longest time, I would say Rush is probably my longest band. To be influenced, not just drumming wise, but also just artistically and musically, and how they've gone through different, kind of styles over the decade. Enjoyed like the late '80s and early '90s, so it might be something off of their
Okay.
early '90s stuff.
Okay, cool. All right. So now, Tom, you've had a lot of time to think, baby. Come on.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, starting off, both my parents were into classical music, so that was my first, I guess, influences. Listening to Mozart and
Really?
Yeah, yeah, really, and Bach, and and playing that music, having piano lessons, having to learn that kind of music, Baroque music. My mom would play it all the time. So that my first influence, and then when I was getting older and I started playing the saxophone, excuse me, then I started getting more into R&B and funk music. So James Brown, George Clinton, Prince, Sly and the Family Stone, and then later, later Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
And maybe a little bit after that, when I started playing guitar, then like Steph said, I think probably Bob Dylan really changed things for me, just in terms of, I had this bootleg because I worked at a CD store, and we used to get bootlegs. Eventually got in trouble for it, and that stopped. But but we got a share of live soundboard recordings, so I got this one from Bob Dylan. The sound quality was very bad, but just to hear someone who could sing like he did, it made me think, well, if he could do it, then I think I could do it too. So that really opened the door for me, and so I still hold that recording, in high esteem, because it sort of gave me permission to do this kind of songwriter thing.
Now, do you have that song?
I think it was Mr. Tambourine Man. But this is an older bootleg. This is like from early '90s. So there was a few more instruments. It wasn't just him, singing solo at Newport or something. There was like a mandolin. It was still pretty stripped down. But he was just, at that point, he was just kind of croaking it out, just kind of barely hanging in there, with that voice of his. But yeah, something about it spoke to me, and along with some others like Townes Van Zandt, who another one that Steph and I have bonded over, and like Emmylou Harris and people like that. So that kind of got me into the world of country and folk music.
Wow, Mozart, huh? So it's so funny. Nobody mentioned like Jethro Tull. I mean, all that Foreigner, right? All incredible. I mean, I don't mind saying my age, and I say it for a reason. So I will be 64. I always say I was born too late, because all my favorite music is oldies, Elvis, and doo-wop. And these songs came out, some of them in 59, 60, 61, 62. I'm like, how did that happen to me, And it wasn't like from my parents. My dad listened to Italian music, opera, you know what I mean? I would get in the car with them. I grew up in Long Island City, New York, and say, Mommy, oldies, oldies, and she'd have to put the station on in the car. So I have no idea, all right? But you can't take the rock and roll out of me either. I mean, my first concert was Foreigner. I mean, I love it all. Led Zeppelin, all of it. Jethro Tull, everyone you mentioned. So you can't take that out of me. Music is music. But I was never into opera or Bach or Beethoven or classical. I really wasn't. It's amazing music. Now that I'm older, of course, I know that. But, and I was never into old country. But as I got older and more modern country started coming out, I love it. So now I can appreciate the older country, So before we continue, I'm going to have some more questions for you guys. Let's play one of your songs, give everybody a treat, and then you all get an opportunity to talk about that song, okay? Here we go, guys.
And everyone wonders how time passes when love is ending. And everyone knows their own ways to stave off the fear. It comes and it goes. They say loss is better than nothing, and everything stays when you learn to hold each other near. It didn't seem fair to say I was a burden. chosen to treat me that way. And strangers approach to tell of your little secret, and it sounds just like something someone who's seen you would say. When I stare out the window, don't look like I'll do much tomorrow. Or next week or months from now, seems like I'm all in a daze. Got a fifth of rye to help through the next couple hours. I found out too late you're one still set in your ways. It's late enough now, I wonder if it even happened. And time became meaningless the moment that you walked away. I heard a dark rumor, another had pulled you within there. And that sounds just like something someone who's seen you would say. And that sounds just like something someone who's seen you would say.
So that's beautiful. All right, tell us about that song.
Okay. Interesting you chose that one first. That one's we just finished recording in January. I wrote that song maybe 2 weeks before we finished recording, so it's brand new. We've never even played that live.
Yay! It's debuting here.
It is debuting here. You're right, and I really I'd love that you picked this first because it's the first time that one of us wrote a song and the other person sang it, and it also speaks to our process because I wrote it, and what we usually do is the person who writes a song sort of makes a scratch recording and sends it to the other, and that's Tom. And then that person listens to it and makes changes and suggestions and then sends it back with revisions, as it were. And so Tom did that. I had a song structure sort of based off Chris Christopherson.
Okay.
And then he sent it back, having changed the structure around a little bit. But to demonstrate that, he had to sing it, too. So he sent back the new song structure with his own voice on it, and I heard it and I thought, man, this sounds so good. He has to sing this song because we've never done that before. If we write a song, we usually sing it, but I really loved the way he sang it. So I said, I think you need to sing this for the recording.
So that was Tom singing.
Yeah, it's Tom singing.
And you wrote it, Stef.
Yeah, and there's harmonies. I do harmonies on it. But it's the first time we've recorded something like that where one person writes a song and the other person sings it. So
Beautiful. So what do you guys think of that song?
Well, the story of its title is also interesting. I mean, as was just mentioned, Stef wrote this. He wrote it in a day.
I love that.
And as the song's called "Sounds Like Something," and as we mentioned, the album is called "Sounds Like," so kind of made it onto the title of the album.
Yeah.
But where the name came from is, I was just having this like conversation with my mom in the kitchen, and she said something, and I was like, "Sounds like something someone who said that would say." tongue twister thing. And then my dad was like, write that down, write that down.
Yeah.
And then by the next day, he had a song. And then 2 days later, Tom sent his demo, and that, that developed. It's also like one of the quietest things we've done. So it's nice to have this more ballad-y thing going on.
Yeah.
The idea of having a piano on it was influenced by Tom Waits, that
Okay.
Tom Waits style. I was listening to a lot of Tom Waits at that time, so
Very cool.
felt like that was a good addition.
It's Kai on piano.
Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing. So now, Tom, what do you want to say about this song that you sang?
I'm happy that that we have this collaborative process in the band. It makes it a lot. It takes kind of the pressure off and makes it more fun too. So I was surprised when I got the initial song from Stef, and but my thought was that it was because of the slower tempo, that it could be it could be edited down and not have sort of a separate verse and a chorus. But I thought it could be, the chorus could be sort of embedded more into the verse. So it just felt like one verse, small break, and then another verse.
Cool.
So that's what gave me the idea to say, okay, this is going to work, but we have to make it just a little bit tighter, because it as Kai said, it's a ballad. So that's when I moved stuff around, made a quick recording of it, and sent it back, and keeping my fingers crossed that nobody would be offended that I said, okay, you should move this here and cut that and move that there.
Look at that. Amazing. So
yeah,
now...
so it's nice to have bandmates where I feel comfortable. I could say, well, this is what I really think, and hope for the best.
That's what it's about. That's beautiful. So now, Brian, what do you think of the song?
I probably reiterate the similar thoughts of nice having a nice kind of simple, relaxing ballad kind of tune, which is good to have at least one or two of on each album for variety's sake. And originally hearing the song ideas, like meeting with the guys and kind of having the song grow, and then seeing it kind of develop, and then later on the idea of I can't remember if it was Kai's or Seth's idea of the let's do this as the piano part instead of maybe originally on guitar. It's interesting to hear how it kind of gives since there's a different tonal sound, kind of changes it up. It's like, oh, that's kind of refreshing, like a little more variety throughout an album or an EP size release thing. It's like, oh, okay, here's a cool relaxing piano bit.
Very cool. So before we play a second song, I want to ask you, who came up with the name Chiseled?
It was I'll take this one. It was.
All right, come on.
It was actually my partner Jenny. They have a lot of good ideas, and they also do the photography for us and the cover design.
Oh.
And also coming up with names. So Steph and I were, at the time we were making our first record at home during the pandemic, as she said. So we're saying, we have to think of a name. So I wrote down some things. Steph came up with some things. But what ended up winning was Jenny said, well, why don't you call yourselves the Chiseled Chins? And I said, why would we call ourselves the Chiseled Chins? And I think this was pre-beard for me. And so Jenny said, well, y'all have sort of prominent features. So I said, okay, how about we just shorten it to Chiseled? So
Okay.
that's how the name came about.
Because to me, I'm picturing hard rock, all that kind of stuff, and grunge and all that. And I'm looking at you guys and talking to you guys, and I'm like, Chiseled. Very cool. Very cool. All right, so producer, let's play song number 2, and then we'll have you talk about it.
What I needed, I had. What you wanted, you took. You gave me a deluxe edition of your feelings to read like a book. Over mountains and rivers and the heavens above. When you left, I cried with tears so dry like the ashes of love. You're a special brand of sunshine with the giantest of hearts, seemingly unwilling to engage. If you walk back out that door tomorrow, I'll know what you said was true, and I'll know that it's time for me to turn the page. Now the days turn dark, like dusk on the shady eaves. When you painted your freedom mural, you had color but no relief. You bent the rules, oh, and you burned them to the ground. If I told you what you want to hear, would you still want me around? You're a special brand of sunshine with the most magnificent of hearts, fittingly unable to take the stage. If I don't see you again tomorrow, I'll know that you're being you, and I'll know that it's high time for me to turn the page.
Okay, Steph, tell us about this song. Come on.
You're muted.
Oh, can you hear me?
No, Steph is
Steph's
muted.
muted.
Oh, okay. Steph,
Yeah.
come on, tell us about the song.
Thank you. Thank you for the song. This one is also a world premiere. We have not done this one live either, but it's on the album. And it's a co-write. So the previous song I wrote and Tom sang. This one I sang, although he's on harmonies. But I had written the first verse and the chorus, and I was stuck. I couldn't think of a second verse, so I sent it to Tom, and he figured out the second verse, which is cool. It's the first time we've done that since our very, very first song together 5 years ago. That one and the second song were co-writes, but ever since then we haven't really done that so much. So I like that we did that in this case. It is our first on the new album. There's 2 bossa nova style songs, and this is one of them. And Tom wrote another one. Actually, he wrote his first, and then I was influenced and wrote this second one. It's nice to have a little bossa nova groove, especially I think with the drums. It's nice with Brian playing side stick and so on, and just getting that sort of jazzy feel to it. Some of the lyrics on this album, I just last year started reading Raymond Chandler novels.
Oh,
And a few of the lyrics on the album are straight out of Raymond Chandler. So,
wow. Okay.
oh, and one other important thing at the very end, part has Kai's mom, my wife, making her debut on any of the albums. She's actually does a little bit of the doot doots.
That's so cool. Kai, what do you want to say?
I mean, you know, Doot doot.
I love it.
I love that. I love that part so much. Yeah, honestly, yeah, it was a pretty spontaneous thing to just. I mean, I've been off for college. You know, I went off to college in
Yeah.
August, and I came back for break, and we had this like bossa nova song, the one that was written by Tom, and then my dad was jumped on that train. So all of a sudden, we just had two bossa nova songs to work with. It was really a fun new addition, and I think it was nice adjusting with everyone. But and I also enjoy that we gave it our little chiseled style. I think we do that a lot. Just take a lot of genres and just sort of pull it somewhat close into this chiseled style that we have. So this was a really fun one. Also, a note on one of the parts is that maybe like last week, I sent our sound guy, our mixer guy, a part that I just recorded in my dorm. Because I think any musician or artist really can relate to the idea that, you have this finished project and then you're looking over it or listening over it and it's like, oh no, I could have added this part. So the guy who was doing our mixes and all was gracious enough to accept this little recording that I did in this dorm. So I think that's the only recording outside of the studio or outside of
Cool.
the piano that we have on the album. That's my unique bit that I could add, because the rest really the others can talk about.
But that's so cool.
Let's do a shout out to Steve Glaze of Tone
ahead.
Freaks.
Yes.
Yes.
They did our mixing, and he's cool. He's great.
Very cool.
Really cool. Good to work with, yeah.
So, Tom, what would you like to say about that song?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Kai said. So that recording that he made in his dorm room, which is to harmonize that last bit of the solo for the previous song, that was actually the second thing that Kai recorded outside of the main studio, Steve Glaze's place. So we also recorded the piano here at my house, which Kai played. So that was both things were outside the studio. Yeah, which is cool. It's great to have the technology to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't have too much more to add.
Okay.
So since we're talking about the doot doos, so those come from a Stevie Wonder song. I mentioned earlier one of my influences. His song, which is very much Brazilian influence, called "Bird of Beauty." That was more like a samba, so it's a little more upbeat. But I ripped it off straight from Stevie. So
that's so cool.
Thanks, Stevie, for that.
That was completely spontaneous, no plan at all. It was just right then in the studio. Tom started singing along to the Doot Doots, and that's
great.
And we said, let's do it. And then Tom said, does Cowrie want to sing harmonies on it? So really last minute, and that's one of the things I really love about recording is you could just do things right there on the spot.
I love that. So now, Brian, what do you think of that song?
Yeah, to continue initially with the doo-wop there at the end, even me, those were put in after we as a group were in the studio. So I start receiving these later kind of rough mixes, and I get to the end, I'm like, hey, that's a cool addition. They're like, who sang that? Was that, did they, work with this? And then learning that like, oh, one of the other ladies came in and joined in. I was actually pleasantly surprised to hear that myself. That was a cool addition. And to continue on with the, couple of songs that got that bossa nova feel, I kind of enjoy that since like I mentioned before, my dad is a big band, sax player for many years. So I used to play with him, occasionally when I was younger. And it's like, it's kind of fun to incorporate a little nugget of that, genre into something current and modern. And sometimes I joke with the guys in rehearsal that, a couple of the songs are a little more loungy, and a couple other songs might be able to rock out more, but just being kind of that more loungy. Whenever we're practicing it or playing a song like that, for me personally, I kind of drift off into, I imagine myself literally like on like an island or like on a cruise ship. And I I kind of go into like Love Boat mode. I
Yeah.
envision like an old. It's just my brain. That's where my brain goes, and that's kind of how I get locked in when we play that song. So,
That's cool. Very cool. So before we play your third song, I'm going to be reading a poem out of my book. Now, I choose this poem whenever I do entertainers because there are a lot of people out there that are going to be messaging me. They're amazing. I wish I could write like them. I wish I could sing like them. And they're going to love Kai. Let me tell you something. All right? So, this is for anyone out there doubting your self-worth. Everyone has a gift, but it's up to us to figure out what that gift is and utilize it, okay? So I don't care if you're a sanitation worker. We need you. Can you imagine what it would be like if we didn't have sanitation workers, right? So everybody has a gift, and everyone should figure out what that is, and that will fulfill you. So if that's you, please listen to every word of this poem. Utilizing gifts and talents. We are born with talents, we are born with drive, with different gifts to help us thrive. I knew early on I was born to draw and paint, to also write poetry and to talk without restraint. Our gifts and talents should all be used, God's gift to us not be abused. We can go far in life for sure, using our gifts to go on tour, like these guys are doing. All our talents should be used to create ourselves and more, but then our job's to share them, to even up the score. You see, in life, what's needed is not just for ourselves. Once our gifts are mastered, take them off the shelves. A living we can make by spreading them around, but not just for the money, to spread a peaceful sound. Don't take for granted the gifts you're given. Go out and spread the joy. Our gifts are not to be held back for us to self-destroy. Put your efforts forth. Do not hesitate. All your talents, my friend, are never second rate. Never hold them back or you will surely die. Maybe not in body, but your soul will cry. Our gifts were made to share, our talents made to soar. Go through life enlightened, and then you can roar. Be proud of who you are. Be happy you're alive. Once again, my friend, your gifts will help you thrive. By putting efforts forth, not keeping them at bay, your name, Chiseled baby, will live forever, forever and a day. So go through life excited for what you sure can give. To yourself and others is our reason to live. Our grave will be quite lonely, but our legacy lives on. So make sure people smile with the breaking dawn. And that's what you guys are doing. You're making people smile. You know music saves lives. Listen, through the last few years, what everybody went through, some people were on lockdown for a long time in hospital beds. If I did lives, they would send me messages. Jerry, I had the nurse prop up my phone. Thank you for that live. You know what I mean? So I want to thank you and all the musicians out there for doing what you're doing on a regular basis. So may the music never die. Never, ever. I don't care what kind of music it is. I want to share one more thing about music, and then we're going to play your final song. I don't listen to hip-hop and rap, okay? But I'm going to share something beautiful. So back in the day, years ago, a young man named Randy Shank reached out to me on Facebook and said, Miss Geri, I live in Trenton, New Jersey, near me. And he said, I'm a hip-hop artist starting out. Can I please be interviewed by you? Come live in the studio. And I said, can you keep it clean, young man? He said, absolutely. So he came to the studio with a few of his rappers. They not only kept it clean, I asked him a question. I said, why does it have to be so, angry and so much violence and profanity? Why? And he said, Miss Geri, everyone has a story to tell, and it needs to be told. And unfortunately for some of us, this is the only story we know. So this young man owns a piece of my heart, and he moved down south. He's now also a videographer. And young man, Kai, if you want to look him up and tell him that you're a friend of mine now, he goes by Six, S-I-X, Director. Okay? Six Director. And he does videography, he does everything. And he surprised me a couple times when he came to visit his family. He's now got a family of his own. And he also will message me every once in a while, Miss Geri, I'm trying to keep it clean for you. So I told you that story on purpose because all music matters. We might not get some of the music, but it matters to a lot of people. So I just wanted to say that. So we're going to play your final song. then we're going to talk about it. Let's do that, and then I'll ask you a couple more questions. Okay, producer, let's play.
The younger face beside you, and not a trace of what it doesn't know. Years have turned the mirror hostile. Now you're staring at a face grown old. You say your life could have been much better, and now you're running out of space and time. And memories packed and stacked away, stuck in a place where the sun don't shine. Cheer at the silent movies and picture frames in black and white. Then Panavision came to westerns, so-called justice under blood-red skies, with better guns and tuberculosis and disdain for native lands. Atop Buffalo Skull Mountain, here's no place to take a stand. Your money's been spent, your records have been sold. You bargain with the devil and do what you're told. And time goes fast as you're walking down the line. Now you know yourself a little bit better among the human race running wild, and drew yourself steady eights and aces. You could have folded, but that's not your style. The TV's not telling you nothing that you don't already know. And mourners stretched around the corners, no salvation here below. Your money's been spent, your records have been sold. You bargain with the devil and do what you're told. And time goes fast as you're walking down the line. Your money's been spent, your records have been sold. You bargain with the devil and do what you're told. Time goes fast as you're walking down the line.
Love it. Tell everyone about this song, and then we're going to let you tell how to get in touch with you guys if they want your music. Okay. If they want your music, all that. But let's talk about this song first. We'll start with you, Steph.
I'm going to let Tom talk about it.
Oh, okay. Tom, let's go, baby.
Oh, okay. So you may relate to this. So I don't, when I start to write something, I don't quite know what I'm going to write about. I just try and stay in the moment, and then maybe a single image or a line, and I try and just build off that. So I wanted to actually go back and look at my legal pad and say, okay, what was the first line that I got from this? And often the first line ends up being the first initial thought that made me want to sit down. So I think the first line is the younger face beside you, not a trace of what it doesn't know. Years have turned in the mirror hostile. Now you're looking at a face grown old. So I wanted to have something that felt universal enough, not necessarily like I'm talking to an old person, but just someone who's aware of the passage of time. And then then later on, I just got the just kind of got the idea of maybe panning out a little bit and thinking more as society as a whole, getting older, or this country growing up and getting older. So I mentioned things about, like exploitation of, of native lands and things like that, and things like in Westerns and how people are portrayed. So and then the title of the song, I don't know if this is really 100% I got, but just, the song from Johnny Cash, I Walk the Line, just finding out where he came up with that. Is that he I guess apparently he went out on a tour with Elvis Presley, and night after night, after the shows, he would notice Elvis would go in, one of the dressing rooms with a young girl, and then maybe a couple hours come out with a different young girl, and Johnny would see this night after night. And of course Johnny was already married at the time, had one or two kids at home. So he said that seeing that happen with Elvis.
I wish I was one of those young girls going in and out of the dressing rooms with Elvis. I'm just saying, baby.
Yeah. So Johnny thought, well, this is I got a family at home, so I got to walk the line.
That's so
anyway,
cool. So wait, I never heard that story. So now I am a huge Elvis fan. Okay, I even did a show about the Elvis movie. I went 2 days in a row because they lied in it about everything. The actors were incredible. They deserve awards. But they lied in that whole entire movie. So I was so aggravated. I took all my notes the second day because the first day I was crying, and I did a show about it with some other ETAs. I never heard that story.
Yeah, I can't vouch for.
I'm going to check it out.
Please do. But I thought it was a neat background to hear Johnny Cash's or his side of it.
I have to find out, and then I'll let Steph know, or if you get me on Facebook. All right? Okay, so now, all right, Steph, you talk about that song.
This is one where, Tom wrote it. Kai's guitar is particularly tasty on this one. I did the bass line, so I'm sort of more in the background on this one, but I love the song. It's one of the ones on the album that has a really good groove to it. So, and it's among my favorite songs to play live. This one we've played live a whole bunch of times, and it's among my favorite to do live.
So Kai, tasty bass. So come on.
Guitar. Bass
tasty guitar. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
Same thing. Bass, guitar, whatever. Well, just in terms of, this is one of the songs, I don't know if this is something other people think about much, but this is one of the songs where I feel most that the title sounds like what the song sounds like. When I was coming up with that riff that plays throughout, I kind of try to make it sound like Walking Down the Line, sort of in riff form. So that was one of the initial thought processes. In terms of the solo, I've never been more stumped by a solo. For this one, I sat down, a while, and I kept coming up with things, and they all sucked. So then what I did was I just deferred to my philosophy that every artist is just a collection of their influences as one.
Oh, wow.
And that's what defines an artist's individualism. So I used that idea to basically rip off a part of the solo. We were mentioning television earlier. The second section of the solo is pretty generously ripped off from Guiding Light by Television. But I'm not saying I ripped the whole thing off. It was like a quarter of the solo. Okay. And then that's what got the gears moving. So I think anyone who's like stumped or looking for a way out or a way into creativity, I don't think people should, wean away from stealing or I don't think people should define individualism as being devoid of influence or recognizable factors of other artists or other people that came before them. So that's how that turned out.
So, all right, are you good with computers and tech?
Well, it depends. If it's like my dad asking me, yes. If it's a computer science major asking me, no.
Oh, okay. My grandson's like a computer scientist, and you talk like he talks. Okay, so I'm like, this is incredible. All right, so now, Before I ask Brian to tell me what he thinks of that song, I want to say one more thing to Kai. I know you're going to write music. I know, or you're going to write a song. Here's the challenge. When you do, reach out to me ASAP. We will have you
Okay.
back. Okay?
Okay.
All right?
Thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yes.
The poem was wonderful as well.
Oh,
It's a
thank
great
you,
message
sweetheart.
to keep
Thank
in
you,
your heart.
sweetheart. So, Brian, what do you think of that song?
Yeah, that's also one of the ones I enjoy playing a lot.
I think Brian's getting a little frozen.
Great.
Yeah.
Can you get me now?
There you go. Come on, Brian. Yep.
All right. Yeah, that song is also one of my favorites to play live, just because it's tempo is a little more rocking, and even the studio version was like pretty rocking. But even the first few times when we were jamming on it, and the first few gigs we played all together, and letting Kai rip up and guitar solo section, I was like, okay, here's like the time to let your rocker, not just him, but myself, because all of us get to kind of fly free there for some fun.
Cool.
But also the more mellow, gentler parts of the song is a kind of nice dynamic change. And lyrically, I enjoy it. It's kind of another, just kind of, it feels like we just go along for the ride. And it's probably one of the songs I think of as one of the more, songs I might play while driving on the freeway. It's inspired, like, just cruising my car, moving along. So.
Very cool. So now, Steph, tell everyone how they can get your music, get in touch with you guys, your Facebook stuff. Let's go.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And I really appreciate this time with y'all. Well, we have a website, and that's just I think on the screen you can see Chiseled. The website is chiseledmusic.com. It's just Chiseled Music, all one word.com. And then the Facebook and the Instagram are both just Chiseled Music. So yeah, hit us up. This new album's coming out in a couple weeks. You can order that CDs of that, or they're streaming on all the major streaming sites, and available also on the website will be, and as well as the old albums too.
Okay. Now, your Facebook page.
Chiseled Music.
Oh, okay. Chiseled Music. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to give each one of you the mic. You each have about a minute just to say anything you'd like to say to the listening audience, okay? Actually, we're going to start with Brian because Brian's been last every time. So, Brian, we're going to let you go first, okay?
Well, yeah, I'm always grateful to get an opportunity to play and
Yeah, he's okay.
Lost Brian.
and work with different musicians with different style, share music and the joy of music to everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. You were cutting up, but we heard a little bit, so thank you so much. So, all right, let's go to Tom. What would you like to say to everyone listening?
I guess I would just say that just finding something that gives you a reason to wake up every day, something, and it doesn't have to be music necessarily, artistic necessarily, but yeah, just something that lets you get into the beauty of the world and find something that makes you appreciate being alive. So I feel blessed to have this opportunity as a musician and to share it with others and my bandmates and people that come out to our shows and people like you who support arts, and also people in recovery or who are not there yet. So that's great for all those people out there. Keep on keeping on, and yeah, there's hope. And just have to stick around long enough to find it. So I appreciate you having that message in your writing, Geri, and having us a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. So now, Kai, let's hear from you.
Yeah, probably piggybacking a lot on what people have said, including you in your poem. But I think everyone has some things.
Yes.
Where everyone has some things where it just feels, it feels right. Like for me, I've never whenever I play music, I wouldn't say I've ever practiced music a day in my life. I just have enjoyed it and played along with what I felt. So I think everyone, regardless of whether that's creative
It is.
or in art at all, everyone has that one thing that they feel deeply connected to, and that helps them connect to other people as an individual. So I think, anyone who hasn't found that yet, took me 15 years. It's there, it's somewhere. So I think, I think the purest form of connection to yourself and to other people is just cultivating your sense of self and your connection with yourself. So I think that's a good message to keep.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. Thank you. So now, Stef, what would you like to say?
Really appreciate this time. It's been fun. Music, can be super frustrating, super annoying sometimes when you can't figure something out, or when ideas aren't coming. It can be a real bear. But one of the most enjoyable things I have in life, basically, is making order out of chaos when it comes to music. Starting with something that is nothing at first, and little bits and pieces that still don't add up to anything, and then working it and reworking it, and then bringing it to friends who help you work it and rework it, and then ultimately creating something that didn't exist before is a really great feeling, and it's among the most fun things I've ever done. And so that's why I like to keep it up. And if that's your thing, everyone should do something like it. So.
I agree. I want to say thank you to all of you, because this was really cool. You guys are awesome, and the way you work together. And listen, when you guys were like explaining, sharing what you felt about the songs, I could feel your emotion. So that's what was so beautiful for me, because I felt it, and it was real, and it was heartfelt, and you guys put everything into your music. So I just want to say thank you. This was a really great show. Everybody out there, please share this show. Please support them. Get their music. The music's incredible. You can't even deny that. About how many songs have you guys written?
Oh, not that many. Probably 50. Written and actually worked on and recorded.
All right. So that's a decent amount. 50 songs. Okay, cool. So they write most of their songs. They sing most of their own songs. They'll sing a few covers at shows. All right. He's going to be singing an Elvis one soon. If you guys ever come into the New York, Philly, or New Jersey area, let me know. Okay. This was awesome.
Will do.
Kai. Listen, I'm sorry, but he owns a piece of my heart now. I love all you guys, but that young man owns a piece of my heart now. You will write a song, and you will reach out to me. I know it's going to happen.
I will let you know.
All right?
Thank you so much.
So, producer, take us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Love's the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do.
Just what to do, just what to do.
If what you're feeling is really true.
Is really true, is it really true?
Just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Love's the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.